Welcome to another episode of the True Facts series, where we uncover the mysteries hidden beneath the deep sea. A fisherman, after an intense struggle, finally manages to reel in a 4-foot-long shark. Just as he's about to pull it out of the water, something lurks beneath the surface. In the blink of an eye, a shadow shoots up, and with one giant gulp, the shark disappears. The video even captures the sound of the fishing rod snapping under the sheer force of the attack. As the mysterious creature retreats, its spiked, bony back is the only thing left in sight before it vanishes slowly into the depths. What was that monster? Where did the shark go? Did it really just get swallowed whole? Yes, the creature capable of devouring a shark in one bite is none other than today's star, the grouper. But swallowing sharks is just one of its incredible abilities. This fish can also change colors, use venom, ambush prey, and even switch genders. And if that's not enough, it possesses a level of intelligence that suggests it knows a thing or two about strategy. So today, let's dive into the world of this fascinating and terrifying predator. Swallowing prey whole. A primitive but deadly hunting technique. Swallowing prey whole is an ancient survival skill found in some of the most fearsome predators of the ocean. Take the goblin shark, for example. This prehistoric-looking species can rapidly extend its jaws, creating a powerful vacuum that sucks prey straight into its mouth. Similarly, the anglerfish uses its expandable mouth to create a vacuum, dragging prey directly into its giant, cavernous jaws. The grouper, though not as exaggerated in appearance, uses the same deadly strategy. It doesn't just chase after its prey. Instead, it lurks in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment. Then, with a sudden burst of speed, it lunges forward, opening its massive mouth to create a powerful suction force, pulling its victim inside before using rows of sharp throat teeth to prevent escape. In slow-motion footage, we can see exactly how this works. The grouper's attack looks surprisingly similar to a human yawning, except that in its case, the yawn is a death sentence for whatever happens to be in front of it. Take, for example, a viral video of a diver swimming near a grouper. Everything seems normal until, bam! In a flash, the grouper ambushes him, swallowing him whole. Fortunately, the fish wasn't big enough to fully consume him, so it spit him back out. But imagine if it had been a 20-foot giant. What would have happened then? Encounters with giant groupers, swallowed alive. The legendary science fiction writer Arthur C. Clarke, best known for 2001: A Space Odyssey, once had a terrifying real-life encounter with a giant grouper. While diving off the coast of Sri Lanka, he came across a 20-foot-long, 4-foot-wide grouper hiding inside a shipwreck. Clarke, realizing the massive size of the creature, wisely kept his cool, circled the fish to measure its proportions, and slowly retreated, a decision that may have. Another terrifying case occurred in California in the 1970s, when a diver was nearly swallowed whole by a giant grouper. The fish had already sucked his entire body into its mouth, using its throat teeth to pull him in. The only thing that saved him was his oxygen tank suddenly exploding, startling the grouper into spitting him out. Later, scientists calculated the fish's throat diameter based on the diver's body size and estimated that this grouper was likely 13 to 16 feet long. How big can a grouper get? The largest officially recorded grouper was caught in China, measuring 8.5 feet in length. But could they really grow to 16 or even 20 feet? There's no definitive answer, but scientific studies suggest it's possible. By analyzing grouper genetics, researchers have determined that these fish can live up to 80 years. However, the oldest recorded grouper caught by humans was only 37 years old. Groupers have growth rings in their fins, much like tree rings. Each year, they grow a little bit bigger, meaning that if an 80-year-old grouper exists, it could realistically reach a length of 16 to 20 feet. A predator that's always watching. Despite their gentle, slow-moving appearance, they're the ruthless hunters. Their unblinking eyes are constantly scanning their surroundings, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. They may seem harmless, but in reality, they are apex predators, capable of ambushing sharks, outsmarting prey, and surviving for decades in the depths of the ocean. So, next time you're in the water, remember, you never know what might be lurking just beneath the surface. The apex predator of coral reefs, the grouper's deadly skills. The grouper is an ambush predator, always ready to strike without warning, and even sharks aren't safe. But what makes this fish even more extraordinary is its ability to change colors. Unlike fast-swimming predators, groupers are not built for speed. Instead, they spend most of their lives lurking among coral reefs, blending into their surroundings as they wait for the perfect opportunity to snatch their prey. Groupers can synchronize their skin color with the coral around them, making them nearly invisible. If they move from one coral patch to another, their skin color adapts, allowing them to remain perfectly camouflaged. This skill makes them unstoppable hunters in the reef, where no other fish stands a chance against them. Even humans aren't exempt. There have been instances where groupers have boldly stolen fish from divers' hands while they were spearfishing. They are, without a doubt, the undisputed kings of the coral reef. A toxic secret, the hidden danger of eating grouper. You may have heard that grouper is poisonous and should only be eaten in moderation. This is true to some extent. While not all groupers are deadly, their brains and internal organs contain a highly unusual toxin called ciguatoxin. This toxin is heat-resistant, meaning cooking won't destroy it. If ingested, it can cause a full-body toxic reaction. Symptoms include stomach cramps, nerve damage, cardiovascular failure, and body temperature irregularities. And here's the terrifying part. All of these symptoms can occur simultaneously within 24 hours of consuming contaminated fish. Even more frightening is that some people who survive ciguatera poisoning develop a lifelong sensitivity to seafood. That means every time they eat fish, they experience mild poisoning symptoms all over again. It's like a permanent curse. One bite, and you're saying goodbye to seafood for life. Fortunately, humans have a relatively high tolerance for ciguatoxin. As long as you're not eating excessive amounts, the risk of poisoning is low. However, everyone's tolerance varies, and elderly individuals and young children are particularly susceptible. To be safe, it's best to avoid eating too much grouper, especially its head and organs, as those contain the highest toxin concentrations. Interestingly, groupers aren't naturally toxic. They accumulate ciguatoxin from the food they eat, much like pufferfish. In fact, farm groupers are completely safe to eat since they never consume toxic prey. Many of them never even see the ocean or coral reefs throughout their entire lives. Grouper, the predator that can handle poison. Beyond using toxins, groupers are also masters of toxin resistance. This was proven in a remarkable ecological event 20 years ago. In the early 2000s, lionfish, an invasive species from Asia, were introduced to North America. Because of their exotic beauty, many Americans kept them as pets. However, when some owners released them into the wild, the situation quickly spiraled out of control. Lionfish are highly venomous, equipped with poisonous spines that make them deadly to other fish. In North America's coral reefs, they had no natural predators, allowing their population to explode. Within a few years, lionfish were wreaking havoc on local marine ecosystems, pushing native fish species to the brink of collapse. Faced with an ecological crisis, marine experts scrambled for a solution. After years of research, They concluded that cooking eliminates lionfish toxins, making them safe to eat. To control the invasion, scientists encouraged Americans to eat lionfish, but the results were underwhelming. Unlike some cultures that eat fish regularly, Americans weren't consuming enough to make a difference. With no better options, scientists started observing natural marine behavior, hoping to find a solution. Finally, on New Year's Day in 2015, they witnessed something incredible. A wild grouper was stalking a lionfish, following it for several minutes. Then, in a sudden ambush, it swallowed the lionfish whole and remained completely unaffected by the venom. This discovery was a breakthrough. Researchers found that groupers have an incredibly high tolerance for marine toxins. Unlike other fish, they aren't affected by lionfish venom, making them the perfect natural predator to control the invasive species. The only problem? North American groupers weren't accustomed to eating lionfish. Scientists hypothesized that if groupers learned to recognize lionfish as food, they could naturally balance the ecosystem, a strategy known as biological control. With this in mind, researchers began training groupers by feeding them lionfish carcasses, encouraging them to develop a taste for their venomous prey. Over time, more and more groupers began hunting lionfish on their own, a game-changing moment for marine conservation. More than just a fish, a master of survival. The grouper may appear slow and harmless, but beneath its calm exterior lies one of the ocean's most cunning predators. It stalks its prey with patience, ambushes sharks, adapts to its environment, and even defies deadly poisons. This incredible fish continues to surprise scientists, proving that even the most unsuspecting creatures can hold the key to nature's greatest mysteries. Who would have thought that a shark-swallowing fish could also be a savior of coral reefs? The grouper, the ocean's smartest predator? In the United States, a unique profession has emerged: divers who train groupers to hunt lionfish. Yes, you read that right. There are now underwater instructors teaching groupers how to eat an invasive species. The best part? The pay is surprisingly good. So, if you're looking for an unconventional career, this might be worth considering. The intriguing gender-switching fish. How do they do it? The idea of fish changing gender seems like something out of a fantasy novel. But in the animal kingdom, it's a natural phenomenon. Some species of fish, including the grouper, can switch genders depending on environmental factors. This ability is an extraordinary survival mechanism, ensuring that species can reproduce even if their population is skewed towards one gender. In some species, like the wrasse, gender switching is a regular part of their mating rituals. When two wrasse meet, and they are the same sex, one of them will change its gender to facilitate mating. This behavior ensures the survival of the species, even if mating partners are scarce. For groupers, the process is just as fascinating. When a grouper population has more males than females, some of the males will naturally transform into females to allow for successful reproduction. Once the reproductive cycle is completed, these females may revert back into males if necessary, ensuring that group reproduction can continue. This flexibility in gender allows fish to thrive in environments where finding mates of the opposite sex can be difficult. And it's one of nature's most incredible feats. The process isn't fully understood yet, but it's a fascinating example of evolutionary adaptability. Groupers can think, the discovery of their intelligence. In 2015, scientists made a groundbreaking discovery. Groupers are capable of complex thinking and cross-species cooperation. Research teams observed groupers teaming up with moray eels to hunt fish. The process was fascinating. A grouper would first swim to a moray eel's den, seemingly communicating something. Then, the two would head off together to a hunting ground. Here's where it gets interesting. While the grouper patrolled above the coral, the moray eel would dive into the reef's tunnels, flushing out hiding fish. At the perfect moment, the grouper would ambush the fleeing prey, and both hunters would share the meal. What makes this discovery special? This is a form of strategic hunting. Groupers don't just hunt alone. They actively seek partners to increase their hunting efficiency. Collaboration between two different species is extremely rare in nature, especially between a bony fish like the grouper and an eel-like fish such as the moray eel. This is one of the strongest pieces of evidence proving that groupers possess remarkable intelligence, far beyond what humans have ever thought about fish. Clearly, groupers are not just ordinary predators, they are true strategists of the ocean. To confirm this wasn't a coincidence, scientists recreated the scenario in a laboratory experiment. They used fake eel models to test the grouper's memory and intelligence. When the orange-headed eel model, which had previously cooperated with the grouper, emerged, the grouper immediately recognized it, waited for it to enter the coral, and prepared for an ambush. However, when scientists introduced a yellow-headed eel model, one that didn't understand cooperative hunting, the grouper ignored it completely. Finally, when the orange-headed eel model appeared again, the grouper recognized it as a past hunting partner and followed it toward the coral reef, resuming their strategic partnership. This experiment proved that groupers possess memory, pattern recognition, and even decision-making abilities. But why are groupers so intelligent? That remains an unsolved mystery. The legendary status of the giant grouper. For thousands of years, groupers have ruled the coral reefs, evading human capture and dominating the food chain. Because of their sheer size and strength, they have earned legendary names in different cultures. In the West, they are called Goliath groupers, referencing the giant biblical warrior Goliath, a name often associated with unstoppable power. The weight of a grouper is about 840 pounds, or roughly the weight of a human-sized fish capable of swallowing people whole. The legend of the Goliath grouper also comes from an ancient story of a human-eating beast. This is no ordinary fish. It's a monstrous predator that has fascinated humanity for generations. Why do Western fishermen release the Goliath grouper? A strange phenomenon can be observed in Western sport fishing. When fishermen catch a giant Goliath grouper, they pose for a photo underwater, but instead of bringing it to shore, they release it back into the ocean. Why? At first glance, this seems illogical. If they've gone through the effort of catching such a massive fish, why not eat it? Is it because of toxins, or is there a deeper religious reason? The answer lies in the history of sport fishing. In the 1970s, when stronger fishing rods and lines were invented, deep-sea fishing became extremely popular in Europe and the United States. Many Western anglers enjoy the thrill of battling powerful fish, feeling as though they are conquering nature itself. The Goliath grouper, with its massive size and incredible strength, became a prized catch. Catching and releasing massive fish allows them to enjoy the thrill of the battle while preserving fish populations. Overall, the Goliath grouper is not just a fish. It is a symbol of strength and challenge in the world of sport fishing. The mystery of the mass grouper harvest in 1977. For centuries, humans struggled to capture Goliath groupers in large numbers. Even with modern equipment, catching them one by one was not enough to satisfy the demand for their meat. Then, in 1977, a young man named Don from Florida made a discovery. Each time he went fishing, he returned with hundreds of giant groupers, an achievement that stunned even experienced fishermen. What was his secret? If you observe Goliath groupers closely, you'll notice something peculiar. Whenever a giant grouper appears, small fish swarm around it, circling as if engaged in some ritual. So what were these small fish doing? Feeding. Goliath groupers function as living buffets for smaller fish. As they emerge from the coral reefs, they shed thousands of parasites, providing an all-you-can-eat feast for smaller fish that eagerly consume these scraps. Even more intriguing, Goliath groupers also shed something even more valuable: fish eggs. A single Goliath grouper can produce up to 57 million eggs in one spawning cycle. These eggs are immediately devoured by small fish, which swarm beneath the grouper's belly, feasting on the nutrient-rich spawn. A 100-mile pilgrimage for survival. But this feeding frenzy posed a serious problem. If small fish consumed too many grouper eggs, the species could face extinction. To counteract this, groupers developed a unique survival strategy: mass spawning migrations. Scientists discovered that when it's time to spawn, Goliath groupers leave their usual coral reef habitats and travel great distances. Some have been recorded migrating up to 100 miles. A massive journey, considering groupers aren't fast swimmers. To put this in perspective, 100 miles is equivalent to 2 hours of non-stop swimming for tuna, an incredibly fast fish. For a slow-moving grouper, this is a remarkable journey. Once they reach their spawning grounds, groupers engage in mass reproduction, ensuring that enough eggs hatch into larvae before predators can consume them. After just 1 or 2 weeks, baby groupers grow large enough to survive on their own. The legend of the Goliath grouper, a fish of mythical proportions. For thousands of years, humans have struggled to capture, understand, and coexist with the Goliath grouper. In both Eastern and Western cultures, it has been given names of great power and reverence. The West calls it the Goliath grouper, referencing the mighty biblical warrior. In the East, it is known as dragon shield, symbolizing the divine power of dragons, and the weight of an ancient unit of measurement, 10,000 sima liang. To understand what 10,000 sima liang means, consider this. 1 sima liang equals 1.33 pounds. 10,000 sima liang, 840 pounds. This means that, according to ancient Chinese calculations, a fully grown dragon shield grouper could weigh nearly 880 pounds, a size capable of swallowing a human whole. Coincidentally, the Western legend of the Goliath grouper also comes from an ancient story of a human-swallowing beast. Whether viewed as a holy fish, a monster, or a survivor of ancient times, one thing is certain: the Goliath grouper remains one of the most legendary creatures in the ocean. The life cycle of the giant grouper and the rise of conservation efforts. Once baby groupers hatch, they hide in mangroves or rocky reefs, remaining in seclusion for 5 to 6 years until they grow into full-sized adults. Only then do they venture out, searching for a coral reef to call home. Once a grouper finds its reef, it settles in and lives a reclusive life for at least 5 more years. These fish are homebodies, rarely leaving their territory. It's only when they reach the age of 10 that they embark on their first long journey, a group spawning migration. After this once-a-year mating event, they immediately return home, close the metaphorical doors, and resume their solitary lifestyle. And that's how they spend the rest of their lives, repeating this cycle of isolation and brief collective gatherings. The discovery that led to overfishing. But did you catch Don's secret? That one annual spawning trip was the only time groupers traveled far from home. And where there's a predictable migration route, human hunters aren't far behind. For thousands of years, humans had no way of tracking where groupers laid their eggs. But in the 1970s, GPS technology changed everything. Don, a young Florida fisherman fascinated by new inventions, saw an opportunity. Using GPS tracking, he and his team followed the migrating groupers to their spawning sites. This led to an unstoppable fishing frenzy. Soon, Don's secret spread like wildfire. Before long, Florida's fishing docks were overflowing with rotting giant groupers because there wasn't enough ice to store the overwhelming number of fish being caught. From a groundbreaking scientific discovery, humans have unintentionally pushed the Goliath grouper to the brink of depletion. Charge the consequences of overfishing. It takes a giant grouper at least 10 years to mature. If you wipe them out during their only reproductive season, what do you think will happen? By 1988, the grouper population collapsed. At this point, Don stormed into the offices of the Fisheries Management Committee. By then, he was one of the most successful fishing tycoons in Florida, but he had come not to demand more fishing rights, but to warn them. "You need to do something now," he said. "At this rate, giant groupers will disappear forever." At first, the fisheries officials were skeptical. Was Don just trying to monopolize the market by getting other companies banned from catching them? But over time, he proved his sincerity. The man who had once been a king of grouper fishing had become one of their most vocal protectors. By 1990, giant groupers were officially listed as critically endangered. In 1993, a complete fishing ban was put in place. Thanks to these conservation efforts, the giant grouper population has made a remarkable comeback. Today, their numbers have been upgraded to a lower threat status. This is why you see Western fishermen posing with giant groupers underwater, but never taking them to shore. Goliath groupers are protected, and killing one carries a $50,000 fine and 5 years in prison. Fortunately, scientists have now successfully developed artificial breeding techniques, making it possible to legally purchase farm-raised groupers. The rise of hybrid groupers, man-made superfish. The most common farm-raised grouper today is the pearl grouper, also known as the tiger dragon grouper, mini dragon shield, or saba grouper. These are considered a high-end seafood delicacy. But here's something surprising. This species didn't exist before 2008. That's right, the pearl grouper is a human-engineered hybrid. They crossbred dragon shield groupers, male, and tiger groupers, female, to produce a new species that is highly resistant to disease, grows quickly, thrives in large-scale farms. Hybrid groupers still retain their wild hunting instincts. Although they only grow to about 4.4 pounds, they are still incredibly aggressive predators. In fact, some farm workers have reported that feeding pearl groupers is like watching a feeding frenzy in the wild. They lunge, attack, and devour fish with lightning speed. If you've ever eaten a farmed grouper, chances are you've tasted one of these hybrids. The era of wild-caught groupers is fading, and in its place, science has given us a new breed of fish, one that still carries the wild instincts of its ancestors. The evolution of grouper farming, from wild delicacy to sustainable seafood. In modern aquaculture, groupers are no longer just wild-caught treasures. Today, scientists and fish farmers have mastered the art of breeding and cultivating these prized fish, ensuring a steady supply while also protecting wild populations. One of the most important breakthroughs in grouper farming is replicating natural ecosystems in artificial environments. Farmers feed their groupers a mix of small fish, shrimp, and squid, mimicking their natural diet. To create an even more realistic environment, they introduce live prawns into the fish ponds, simulating the way small, cleaner fish remove parasites from larger predators in the wild. This approach has two major benefits. One, it ensures high-quality grouper meat for consumers. Two, it reduces overfishing pressure on wild populations. While most groupers are safe to eat, there's one notorious species that frequently appears in ciguatera poisoning reports, the Thai star grouper. This species is known for accumulating high levels of toxins, making it one of the riskiest groupers to consume in the wild. Tiger grouper, the wild ancestor of hybrid groupers. The tiger grouper holds a special place in grouper history. This species is the wild ancestor of many hybrid groupers, including the pearl grouper, tiger-dragon hybrid. Tiger groupers are visually striking, featuring 5 bold tiger-like stripes, and sometimes even a red-colored variation. Their firm, delicate texture makes them one of the most highly prized wild groupers, but as a threatened species, they are increasingly being replaced by farmed hybrids. With advancements in fish breeding and aquaculture, wild groupers are becoming rarer in markets, replaced by scientifically engineered hybrids that are more sustainable, affordable, and environmentally friendly. But no matter how advanced grouper farming becomes, one thing remains certain. These fish will always be a symbol of power, prestige, and extraordinary survival instincts. The mouse grouper. A once rare species now thriving in aquaculture. The mouse grouper, known for its distinctive humpback shape and white body with black spots, is considered one of the rarest and most prized species of groupers. Before the advancement of aquaculture techniques, the mouse grouper was rare in nature, leading to high prices in both the ornamental and live food fish markets, particularly in Hong Kong and southern China. Overfishing and habitat degradation contributed to the species' scarcity in the wild. The development of hatchery technologies in the mid-1990s allowed for successful breeding and rearing in captivity, reducing the dependence on wild populations and making the species more accessible for consumption. A fish of mystery and wonder. The world of groupers is full of wonder, from their massive size and mysterious behavior to their incredible survival strategies like gender switching and cooperative hunting. Whether it's the ancient fishing techniques used to catch them, the incredible farming techniques that allow us to enjoy their meat sustainably, or the myths surrounding their power and intelligence, groupers remain one of the most captivating creatures in the ocean. And who knows, maybe one day we'll fully understand the mysterious gender-switching abilities of these extraordinary fish. Until then, their wild and fascinating lives will continue to spark curiosity and awe in both scientists and seafood lovers alike.